because it's hell going through divorce. You feel like you're alone, and you're not. You're absolutely not. This is a safe space. I want men and women to watch the show, married people, divorcees, single people. I want everyone to watch the show. We all have challenges in relationships, and sometimes you just need a safe space. You need to hear that someone else has gone through something so you can get through what you're going through. Hi, this is Sharon Moman, author of Pardon, the Courage to be Set Free. Welcome to the Pardon Me series.
Yay! How are you?
Hi, Tara.
How are you? Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Yay! Welcome to the Pardon Me series. Right? All right. Welcome to the Pardon Me series, everybody. We are with author Sharon Moman.
Hi,
How are
everyone.
you doing?
Hey.
It's so good to see you.
You too.
We are on episode 3. Yes. So let's talk about reviews. How has that been? Like, people have been reading your book. We've been getting a lot of comments. So I want to know from you about the reviews.
They've been awesome. I love the reviews. The latest one that came in, I pulled up the page here. I'm gonna read it. The latest one that came in. I truly enjoyed reading this book. It inspired and blessed my soul. This book paints a perfect picture of how much freedom in life is on the other side of letting go and letting God, to live completely liberated. I want to thank the author for sharing, because sometimes that's all we as women need, to connect with someone who has been there, with someone who understands, with someone who cares. Many women will be blessed, inspired to pardon their beautiful selves, to live free. We deserve it.
Yeah.
That makes my day. That makes my day. And that's all I've ever thought about. I mean, I still remember that day when my friend called, and I just remember, and after I got off the phone with her, everybody doesn't have that. And I remember thinking, if I write this book, someone can have in the privacy of their own home a moment, a girlfriend call. And I get that in the reviews.
Oh, man. It is heartfelt because you pour your heart into writing your book and telling your story in hopes that somebody will be helped, but yet at the same time enjoy it, right?
Right. That's why there's some funny little scenes in there. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember texting you while I was reading saying, OMG, like, what? Then you said, hey, Tyler Perry, right? Because you knew.
Tyler, hey. Or TD Jakes, whoever, Oprah.
Devon, let's go, right?
Hello.
So talk to me about, like, I know that was a heartfelt review, but were there any reviews that were shocking to you that you said, I can't believe this type of person read it or was helped, anything like that?
All of my reviews were 5 stars except for one.
Are you serious?
And it seemed like a little shade was thrown, but God kind of spoke to me about that. So I'm gonna read it, all right?
Oh, wow.
Yes, because I was like, when it came up, and I had a new review, I was like, ooh, and I was like, 4 stars. So this is what she said, and then I'm gonna try and interpret it, because I was like all in my feelings about it. She said, hold on, let me get it here. Okay. Now, she read it nonstop, because when I gave it to her, she put the review up like the next day. So the title is Powerful Read, Very Transparent. And then she says, I enjoyed the read and empathized with the author as she told her story. There are so many lessons that can be learned from this book if the reader uses it as a warning, not as a guidebook.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, I was I was on my Pilates machine, girl. I got some extra reps in that day. I was like, and it messed with me, and it messed with me. And God just, spoke to me that you don't know what she has experienced.
Mm.
There could have been something where she experienced uh, uh, an affair situation in her own marriage. So one of my stories in there probably messed with her some type of way,
Mm.
right? That's what kind of came to my heart. But I was like, my book is just like the Bible. It's stories of mistakes.
Mm.
We are all walking mistakes. No one, it's hard to say that, but we are. We're regular people until a situation happens, and we'll make a mistake. But then we can be redeemed because God said so.
Yeah.
And if we take accountability, and part of me in this process was taking accountability,
Yeah.
telling the story.
Yeah.
This ain't something you just tell people. You don't go around just telling your
That's
business
right.
in the street. So this is accountability. Yeah, I did all of it. I mean, my pastor had to read this. You
Mhm.
know, So I was like, oh my God. And then, like, I mean, I'm just grateful that the Holy Spirit just guided me in writing, because it's for God's glory and not about Sharon.
Yeah, that's interesting. That was really good because I like how you said it's about accountability. You're not preaching or teaching from perfection.
Right.
You're doing this from this is my story. And I mean, that's what makes us human, our mistakes. And that's what also makes us relatable.
Right. Right.
So,
And I think, well, one thing she said is not as a guidebook, maybe because I had 3 divorces. I'm like, it's not COVID. You can't catch divorce.
mhm.
Divorce is going to happen. Actually, before the show, I had a phone call from a relative who told me, the D word. And I
Mhm.
was like, and I said what I didn't want people to say to me. I'm sorry. And, because she's small kids. And, you know, I share with her, a couple of things, and I told her I'm gonna put my book in the mail. But my thing is, divorce just doesn't happen. Just doesn't just happen. There's a series of events, and we talked about this last time, the red flags. And I said, how many times have you seen something and you said, that's odd? And she said, many. So I said, so when it happens again, get a pen and paper and write, or type in your computer
Yeah,
that moment, because you don't believe that it's happening.
yeah. And I think about, your book too, just from that person who sent that comment in, everybody's life story is different. So one person's life could be played out differently because of their childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we're so quick to judge, but we don't know how you grew up and you were raised. So can you speak to your childhood and how it affected you in making the decisions that you made in the book?
Right. So I was a happy child. I mean, I was, my mom and my dad separated when I was 2. My dad passed away when I was 12, but he was in our life. He actually moved down the street from us, so he could see us. And being a little girl, I had curly hair. And so I used to dance and run around and just act like Shirley Temple. And that's what people used to call me, Shirley Temple, when I was a little kid. And I was the baby of the family. So I was the cute one. And I got a lot of attention.
Mhm.
But when I was 12, I was molested.
Mm.
And when that happened, I did not want to be seen or heard again. My
Mm.
voice went away, so to speak. I told, but nothing was done about it. And I think that may have affected my relationships in marriage, where you say something to your spouse and they
Mm.
don't fix it and you just go on because that's what I did as a kid. No one helped fix it. God fixed it because when I gave my life to Christ, that stopped. God stopped that, because that was all during that same year. My dad died. I was molested, and I gave my life to Christ. My neighbor took me to a James Robinson Crusade for Christ, event, and I received the Lord. So it was one of those times, but I had a breakthrough. 54 years old. Now that happened when I was 12. I had a breakthrough a couple of months at church. I don't know what the word was, but I I saw myself as that little girl, 5, 6 years old, dancing and just being the light of the party for everybody. And then I saw myself 12, withdrawing myself. And
Mm.
people call me pretty. I didn't see it as a compliment. I saw it as a threat that somebody was going to do something to me.
Wow.
So at church, I got a breakthrough. I almost laid on the altar. And I used to be one of those who used to laugh at people laying on the altar, because I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah.
And in that moment, God was like, you will not withdraw anymore. And I have seen what he's been doing over the last 3-4 years, where I'm writing this book, I'm talking to people, and I'm doing this series and more that's coming. He's just using me, and he's telling me, you do not have to hide anymore. No shame, no nothing. Keep going forward. I got you.
Wow, Sharon.
And I didn't even know all of this. It was going to come out today.
Wow. That's powerful. That's profound.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
It
know,
makes sense now.
yeah.
It's, everything is making sense now in this season that I'm in, where I'm listening to God and I'm reading the word. Everything is making sense now when it didn't before.
You know, I often tell people, when you read someone's story, it's not for you to necessarily read and judge. It's for you to take the lessons that they've learned and you apply whatever you want to towards your life. My dad used to always say, when you go into a grocery store, you don't buy everything you see. You
Yeah.
take what you need or what you want, or a
Mhm.
little bit what you may not need, right? That's how we
Yeah.
do with our story. We share our stories to give you basically a store full of things that you can come to the shelf and take.
Absolutely.
Kudos kudos to you for one, thank you for sharing it with us. But two, doing the work, because you talked about it before. This is how you got to where you are, where we know you won't return back to those steps because you do the work to research and to think and to meditate and to reflect
Right.
forward. So yeah. Yes. Thank you for sharing it.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
I know it's going to help so many people, especially when it comes to the freedom aspect that continues. It will never stop.
Yeah. And I think that's why I chose the same type of man. You
Mm.
know, I chose someone smart who I thought would protect me, but they ended up being the ones to hurt me, just in a different way. And you'll repeat the behavior until until you take accountability and trust God. And those were things that I just did not do for almost 31 years. And I was I just let my flesh rule me, and I pay for it.
Mm. Mm. That part, what you just said, and I paid for it, is deep.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a conversation with a friend who basically was saying, okay, Charlie, you're divorced now. You know, you can live it up. You can do what you want. You can, yeah, like you can, And then basically, you're grown, you're older, just live your life. So living your life to them is wilding out, right?
Yeah.
I think about what you just said. Am I willing to pay for how I live?
Yes.
Like,
Yes. See, we are designed by God, right? I I used to have BMW, and that BMW could go 160, 180, I think maybe 200. I've never gone that fast, but maybe like 120 on a stretch of mile, where I didn't see any cops or anybody that I could harm. But suppose a deer ran in front of the car, or a dead tree is going to fall in that very moment. Then my car could flip over and I could go across the highway. Now I'm just in my own lane. That's what we do when we're single. We're in our own lane. Whatever we do, it ain't gonna affect nobody. But it does. Our reckless behavior does affect other people. So I'm breaking the law. And when I'm breaking the law, I flip my car and I'm over in the other lane, kill somebody, I'm damaged, I'm going to jail, my life is over, paying money, all these different things. And it's the same thing in the spiritual realm. You're breaking God's law and you're going to hurt other people.
That's good, Sharon. That's real good. There's a cost.
Yeah, it is going to cost you. It's going to cost you. I wrote in the book when I was going to the clubs, because I was a good girl and I was like, I want to see what the street life about. And I went out there and I would tell my cousins, and they would say, girl, you should have called me. I would have gone with you. And I said, no, if I'm going to hell, I'm going by myself. I knew going was wrong because, well, you in the story, you know what comes of it.
Yeah. Well, let's go there. Let's go there because we talked about Warren 3 when you opened up the book about him. For those you don't know, Sharon, her ex-husband Wardens. So Warden 3, so Warden 2, we talked about that a little bit, and you just mentioned that what happened to you at 12. You met Warren 1 actually at 16.
16, right.
Pregnant at 19. Married at 22.
Right. I met him at 16, 2 years, no sex, because we had a pledge. And somebody didn't keep the pledge. And then I felt the pressure.
Yeah.
And we started having sex. And 19, I was a mother, and I call that was when I got on this slippery slope. A slippery slope ride is fun until you get down to the bottom.
Yeah.
You get up there, and once you compromise one of your principles that God says don't do, then more come. Little bit by little bit, everything starts chipping away. And if you've done one thing, then it's easy for other things to start attaching onto you and attacking you. And the person is not the attacker. The actions that the person is doing is attacking you, and that's sent by Satan to disrupt you. I was supposed to do what I'm doing now years ago, and I missed that opportunity. I missed that opportunity. When I was a little girl, I used to ask my teachers for the papers that were, graded papers. She said, what are you going to do with that? I mean, we were poor, so we didn't have anything, but I asked her for those papers because what I would do at the end of every year, I would take those papers and stack them on my bed, and it pretended like it was my desk. So I knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur because my dad was, and I knew I was going to be a businesswoman, but I didn't even know what I was doing when I was doing that. I just thought about that, last year, that I did that. I sure did, as a little girl. So
when you met him at 16, but you said you had a pledge. What caused this no sex pledge? Was it because you grew up in the church?
Received Christ at 12. I was in high school and I went to a campus crusade on the campus of Jackson State University, I love. And he was there, and that's where I met him. So somebody had invited him. He was actually from another state. He was from Arkansas, and he came to the meeting. And so, everybody was scoping everybody out, I guess. And he scoped it out. So that's how I met him. So, of course, you meet at a Christian event. You go do Christian things, you have Bible study, you do all these things. And I'm the stronger Christian because I've been in the faith longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Accountability. So we start dating, and he's being taught by the brothers in the group, about, Christian and all this kind of stuff. And that's when we make the pledge to wait until we're married.
That was interesting because you believed him. You believed that he was waiting. You believed that he would keep his word, and all of a sudden, in the book, you find out the very opposite.
Yeah.
So somebody would say, like, if I find out the opposite, then I'm just gonna leave. Well, you had like a different twist. You didn't just leave. You like, not only I'm not gonna leave, but I'm gonna confront the people who you or the girl. It's the subtitle in your book called Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Oh, that's the second one.
That's the second one.
That's the second one. The first one was during college, and he had an off-campus apartment, and this girl was flirting with him, and somehow he just fell on her and had sex with her. So anyway, and when he told me about it, I was in shock. And instead of just breaking up with him, and that, your life is either going to go this way or that way. And it went this way.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so I fell prey to the pressure and started having sex. Now, the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Red flags for coming up. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It didn't seem normal that he had to go to the store all the time. Right. And so I set up a sting like I write in the book.
Yeah, you described that story so well. Like, we feel like we were right there at the sting with you. Like, is she really going to dinner?
Yes. And we, he wanted to leave the house without me, and I ended up going with him. And he couldn't, back in, in those days, we didn't have cell phones, so he couldn't cancel his date with his side chick.
Call her and warn her.
To the house with her. So read that part.
No, I'm gonna read the other. Keep going. I'm gonna read this part that you said there was something so vital at the end. But keep going.
Okay, so we get to her apartment, and she opens the door, and she's smiling. She's ready to see him, but when she opens the door all the way, she see me and our two kids. No, one kid, because I was pregnant with the other one. Right. Yeah. Right. And I go right on in, and yes, I had dinner. I ate that food.
I mean, the look on her face must have been like, what? Is this a setup? Are you serious?
Right. They had to communicate with their eyes and facial expressions. Yeah. They couldn't say anything, because I gave him the baby, and I just, wherever she went, I was right behind her in the house. I just followed her everywhere. And I think that was an instinctive thing to do, because anything could, I didn't like jump on her like some people would have just started fighting or whatever. Maybe because I was pregnant. Now that I think about it. Maybe because I was pregnant, I didn't do that. But I just said, I'm gonna keep up with her, so he can't have a conversation with her in the corner or outside or whatever. I gave him the child, and wherever she went, I went. She went to her chair, I sat next to her, practically on her lap. She went to the kitchen, I went to the kitchen.
So I want to set up the scene for people to make sure that they're following this. So when you read Karen's book, you'll find out that when her first husband, when he was going to the store, he really wasn't going to the store, but she really didn't know. So you kind of knew. So you found out basically, you have to read. I don't want you to give the whole story away, but what you did was say, well, I'm going to go to the store with you.
Right. He thought he was going to leave me that day, but
Yeah. So you get to a house where the girl who he was with been cheating on you with. You show up to dinner with him and the kids. You took the kids too.
Me, 8 months pregnant, and the kid. I don't think she cooked for all of us. But I ate.
That was such a TV moment to me. I was just like, yo, this is a story right here. This is real. Whereas, like you said, somebody would have jumped in and started fighting. And the thing is, she started making some condescending remarks to you too. So I kind of want to read something you said. You said a woman will try to tear you down if you stand in the way of something she wants, even if it is your man.
Yep. Yep. We see it all the time. All the time. God bless her little heart.
Even
Yeah.
if it is your man, like your possession, something you supposed to have.
Yeah. And we weren't even married yet. So we were still shacking because I did not want to get married. And and so I don't know if that means something to me. Well, I'm not married, so I can still cheat. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So that's neither here nor there, but still married him.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
still married him after all of that. Do you feel like looking back, kind of like you mentioned like you wanted a guy to come and save you. Looking back, would you say that your childhood has had something to do with you being afraid to walk away, being afraid to let go and stand on your own?
During that season, I wasn't afraid to let go. I didn't have any resources to let go.
Wow.
We had one car between us. I had a part-time job. He had a full-time job. This was 86, 87. There were not a whole lot of jobs. There were restaurant jobs, convenience store jobs. There were not a whole lot of jobs. And, you know, I didn't have any choice like a lot of our grandmothers. You
Mhm.
know, I didn't have any choice. So I had to stay. I had to stay put. I could not pardon myself. I had to stay put.
Wow. 10 years later.
10 years later, are we talking about
From
once I left him?
Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
so I met him at 16 and we divorced at 26. So 2 kids, 3 affairs, I think 4 years of marriage. And I got out of there. Well, I'll be telling too much of the story,
Yeah. You don't
but
have to.
I but I did finally pardon myself after we married. Here's something I didn't put in the book. When I say one thing begets another thing begets another thing, my ex-husband had a porn addiction problem,
Mm.
and I didn't realize it, and didn't know about it. He had, so I guess someone gave him a tape or whatever, and
Mm.
he started watching it and started liking it. So one afternoon and I'm pregnant. We're over to our his friend's house. It's a couple's night. We're playing spades, and there's music playing, right? But somebody hit the remote and the TV comes on, and all of a sudden there's this moaning and groaning, and I look and I'm like, "What is that?" And it's porn.
Mm.
The first time I ever seen porn in my life. I'm almost 20 years old, right? So I'm like, what is that? And they all start laughing. Him
Mhm.
and the other couple. So he's in on it with them about trying to introduce me into that.
Oh, wow.
Because that's something that they did. And he's trying to introduce me. And when we got home, I had sex that night. And next morning, I told him, I said, "Hey, when we were intimate last night, I didn't even think about you. I thought about that man I saw on TV." I said, "Now I feel like I cheated on you." So I told him, I said, "This is going to go on record. I'm not going to be a part of looking at stuff like that. That I'm just not that person." And he was like, "Okay, okay, okay. I'm not going to, I won't have, I don't have any tapes in my house. I put my foot down. I had some authority, put my foot down. I was like, don't bring that mess in the house." Right. Girl, I go to work, I get off work. Those are times you had to VCR. And I had my Young and the Restless being taped. I put my Young and the Restless tape in. Boom, 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 whatever porn music sounds like. And I'm like, and I have to confront him again. I'm like, "Well, why are you watching this?" See, he's feeding his appetite. That's why he was.
Mhm.
That's why he was a cheater.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He was feeding his appetite that, and to him, he didn't see that as being, um, as cheating on me. He didn't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
So, whatever that person believed that you're with, they're gonna get you to try to believe it. and you need to decide whose side you're going to be on,
Yeah.
and what and what you're going to stand up for, and so forth. If you can't leave, then just make a plan. And that's what I did. When I start making a plan, I said, first, don't make no new bills. Don't make no new bills.
That's good.
Don't make any new bills. Don't sign anything you got to co-sign, or you're liable for, because you got to get your new place. You got to get you an apartment. And it, I had to get a car because we only had one car between us. So there are a lot of people who are in a situation where it's one car, or their credit is not good enough for them to get another apartment. They can't leave. They can't pardon themselves. They got to wait. But while you're waiting, stack it up.
Yeah.
Get ready.
Or I could say, even now, just taking your advice and doing it for yourself regardless.
Yeah.
With the pandemic that hit, it should have opened up a lot of eyes to say, you know what, this should be just in case.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of particularly young girls that I'm seeing now as I mentor, they'll start moving in with their boyfriends, moving in with their partners. And my thing is, what an amazing blessing it is to have your own.
Mm-hmm.
Jump into something just because you can with this person and not choose to be with you first. Choose to take care of you first. And I think that's where we are now, particularly with the reality shows and with the TV. It's almost like it's the norm for girls to not have their own, but to have it with somebody else. To not have their own, but to have it with somebody.
Right.
So what you're saying?
Everyone wants to fast forward. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I hear an echo, so that's probably what you is bouncing off. But go ahead.
No, I was gonna say everybody wants to fast forward to the sex, to the plan of the house, but that's not the terrain that you're in right now, right?
Yeah.
You are designed to, be intimate, to have marriage, but that's in the terrain, or season that will be in. Just like my BMW is capable of driving 180, but I can't drive 180 where it says 70 outside. I'm breaking the law. So when you break God's law and go in and move in with this guy, all kind of things can pop off.
Yeah.
And then because in most of us, we invest 80% of everything, our money, our time, our talent. And then if something pops off, then what are we going to do? How are we going to leave? Just like that. I mean, what was that on Instagram? Lil Baby. I don't know these rappers' name, but it was, he was videotaping this girl who had it, their baby, and he's trying to put her out. You know what I'm talking about? Did you see that?
Well, yeah. I'm not on social media, but I did hear about it.
Yes. And she has nowhere to go. And been there, done that.
Yep.
Been there, done that.
There's so many people in that situation. Here's the thing, what I hear from your story when you start stacking your resources is that you start seeing, let me put up my standards. Let me put up some barriers, what I will tolerate and what I will not tolerate. And when you said you start seeing a trickle down effect, one thing then after another, it's like, okay, we're not progressing. We're not going anywhere. So I see where I want to go. Let me set up those standards.
Right.
Even though that relationship ended, you went into another relationship right after that. And you did not know this guy was married. Now they'll have to read the story to get all the juiciness. But I saw something else. You started setting up another standard. You could have settled. You could have said, well, you know what? This is more resources. He'll take care of me. He'll do this. But you walked away because you said, that's not who I am. But here's what I was thinking about. Sometimes we look at our life and have a lot of regrets. But would you have had that standard with the guy who was married if you had not gone through the 10-year spat of the 3 affairs from the marriage of the first warden?
I think that I would have still had that standard, even though it was done to me. I still would have had that standard because that was a Christian principle, right? But I talk about in the book, I believed in fornication, but I didn't believe in adultery.
You did say that.
Yes, yes. And then, of course, we know the next segment of the story. I won't give away of what I did, but when you, Holman, I wrote it down. When you live a lie, you tell a lie, and you become a lie.
Wow. Yeah.
So, whatever you do, it's you. It's whatever you do is you. I can't blame nobody for what happened. There was there. See, a lot of times we women we don't report red flags and things just show up when but when you're more attuned to your, I think I disappeared. When you're, let me see, okay, there I am. When you're more attuned to your flesh than your spirit, you can't pick up everything like you need to, right? I don't have direct TV anymore. I got a little antenna from Walmart and I got Netflix and Hulu, right? So my little antenna can pick up so much. But if I pay like $12 for that antenna. But if I pay like $40 for a more advanced antenna, I can pick up more channels. Same thing here with us and with everyone. You can pick up more, with a better antenna. And the only way you're gonna get a better antenna is to read God's word. God's word will keep you from making some of the mistakes. I can tell you, everybody who's shacking up, they ain't reading their Bible. They ain't going to church. Because I wouldn't do it. Now, I was a Christian girl. I didn't, when I got pregnant, I was so ashamed because I was a Christian girl in school. I was a Christian girl in the family. And I couldn't go to church. And we weren't married. I couldn't go to church with my baby and my live-in. I couldn't do that. So my power was low and it drained and it drained. And instead of me going to God, I got further away from him.
That's so good.
That's
good. Because it goes
back. I was shamed. I really was shamed. And I didn't think that there was refuge. And that was me. Because the church is always a place for refuge, for sinners, for backsliders, for prodigal daughters and sons, for all of us. But me, I felt that way.
Yeah.
But come on home, backslider. Come on home.
A couple of things running through my head. And I know we got like 7 minutes. But so let me just say something and then pose a question to you, a scenario. Okay. I think too, when you read the Word of God, it allows you even more to set up more standards. You talked about how you didn't have the standard about fornication, but you did have a standard about adultery. But as you grow, like you talked about knowing the Word and reading the Word, your standards grow because you said a person who's shacking, not reading the Word, they're not every day waking up seeking the voice of God because
they're on Pinterest. They're on Pinterest in the quotes.
Because you can tell a person's standards by what they do with their life and what they're feeding. Just like you said about warden number 1, what he was feeding his appetite. That's what caused the cheating. So you become what you're opening up to. Like
right.
I want to segue into going back to the comment from the critic and to who I think your book speaks to. I want you to envision you are around a table. If you were around a table of people like that critic, of course, it would be hard to penetrate and give some advice to them. But there are so many girls, young girls now, because we have a generation who's basically skipped being raised by mothers who were possibly older. Like a lot of the teen pregnancy was living in a generation that these young girls were raised by teen moms.
Mm-hmm.
We were a teen mom. Like, so it even trickled down where there are 14 and 15-year-old girls now who were raised by 14 and 15-year-old moms.
Right, right.
When you're at the table with them, they are now 19, they're now 20, 21. And they are living in a world where it's the norm to want to be with this guy and have their eyes on the prize as being the number one pick, being the girl. If you could give them, if they were sitting at the table with you and you could give them 3 standards to begin to set so that they can even more walk in a clear path, what would you tell them? What would those standards be? What advice would you give them?
Wow, that's a really strong question, because it depends on that person's environment and culture.
Hmm.
You know, if you pour water on some fabric, it won't soak in,
Mm.
right? You can tell a girl to respect herself, but what does respect mean to her? It has been watered down by her culture or family or uh, peers, you know. So I would just say to them, where do you want to be in 5 years and 10 years?
Mm.
That's what I would say, because telling a person who they should be right now is very, very hard. They're not gonna listen to what you tell them what they need to be right now. But if you ask them, where do you want to be in 5 years and 10 years and 20 years, then they can tell you that. And then you ask them, well, what is your plan? What is your plan?
Yeah.
Because Sharon can say all day long. And I still remember my grandmother saying, get your own bank account, baby. And I didn't. And it cost me. So
Wow.
I wouldn't tell them 3 things. I would ask them, what are their 5 year, 10 year, and 20? Because if someone would have asked me that, and I would have told them real estate, then that person probably would have paired me with someone to mentor me. So when they tell me what their 5 and 10 year goals is, then I can say, okay, we're gonna pair you with someone who can guide you and mentor you, and that person can give them can talk to them about, give them a little advice, that 1, 2, 3 statement that they need to hear on a seasonal basis, twice a year or more, depending on who that person is. But yeah, getting through with 3 statements,
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's it. Those that would be the 3 statements. Name your 5-year plan? What about 10? Where do you see yourself in 15?
Yeah,
And I think that's vital. And I think that's exactly what your book teaches, to look toward the future. Because if you don't have a plan, you'll start even more allowing anyone or people to come into your life, and they'll take you, like you said, you chose this way versus this way. You'll know
right,
which way you can choose.
right, right.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great. I agree. I love the analogy too when you said, sometimes you can waste stuff and it don't soak in, because you're
Yeah,
right. You can see it even more social media statistics. You can see it on TV. It's not soaking in. They have possibly mentors around them, but it won't soak in. But
right,
I have to agree with you. When
right.
you look within,
Yeah, because some people want to be chefs. Some people want, like, I had my former mother-in-law in Arkansas. She called me. She's helping raise a young lady, and she wants to get into modeling. And she said, Sharon, I need you to talk to her. So I Googled, an agency in Arkansas, and I saw, and this is where you need to begin. And you need to be disciplined. You need to save money. It's no more Burger King, no Wendy's, And I asked her, I said, what do you want to do? What do you want to, what is your goal with this? And she gave the general statement. I said, okay, now that's general. What specifically, why do you want to do this? And she couldn't tell me. I said, okay, we got to talk some more, because, just like these individuals who are going to stay with these other individuals, they have no idea what they're signing up for.
yeah,
And you have to ask yourself, what is your reason why, I've asked myself, what were my reasons for each warden? And one thing I thought about this week, I really would love to apologize to each one of them for not being a godly woman.
Wow.
I was a Christian woman, but I was not a godly woman in the relationship. And maybe the the friendship of the relationship would have been um, either flourished or not flourished. It wouldn't have gone into the marriage, right? You know, I just think about that. That's part of my steps in being accountable. God is just still working with me about being accountable, and He's still talking to me. And even now, I'm just like, I know they did what they did, but I did what I did too. And I was a stronger Christian in each one of my relationships,
Mm.
and I didn't step up, and I'm sorrowful for it.
Wow. That is so deep. That is so deep. And with that said, I applaud you for still doing the work. That's what that looked like to me.
Yeah.
Um, that postpartum that you talk about, that postpartum reflection and doing the work. Oh my goodness. Then this is why, yes, you are a guide. You are a guide. You give good wisdom. And your book should be used as a guide, right? The critic said.
Well, I just hope that it saves ship. I hope that happens as well, because I just want people to thrive, and I want them to pursue their assignment from God. And you can't pursue your assignment from God if you're in a dysfunctional situation.
Absolutely. Well, you heard it, you guys, from Miss Sharon, author of Pardon Me. So I want to, let's see, Pardon
Mhm.
the Courage to Be Set Free. You can get your book on Amazon. They can get it at Target.
Barnes and Nobles, Books a Million,
True. Anywhere.
Google, right? Or you can DM me and I'll send you a copy in the mail. Cash App, Butterfly 628.
We appreciate you all so much. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you, Miss Sharon, for all that you've given us so far.
My pleasure.